Yeah, we must. There's a lot of fallen bodies back there. We must loot
Good.
them. Loot
I
them.
Could we have saved?
Looking for some teeth there, Heinrich?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you want to do an after action, but could we have saved the town, Brian?
No, it was not in the story to say. Well,
Damn.
I don't ever want to say you couldn't do that. I would not say that. I would say that you would have had to leave the fight and try to get there by some means while it was still going on, which means that you would have had to do it before it got completely dark, most likely. Because of the time that the fight took place being right at dusk, it would have been a fight the whole way to town. You guys would have been running the whole way, and he would have just been strafing you the whole time. Because just so you know, Dempsey, had you not killed him, he made his roll for another breath attack.
Nice.
And that was coming. And the way Padre Hammerbane was lined up right behind you, you both would have had to make that save. So it was coming. I was just waiting. And he was at one point, and I was like, oh, he's still alive. And yeah, you had one more attack, and it was that last attack that killed him.
I was getting ready to use my last big spell that I had spell for too.
If you look at the initiative tracker, right after you, Dempsey, is him. So had you not killed him, that would have been that would have made some sense at that point.
I mean, you guys all led into that, you all assisted, and it was like the Dross fight again. I used every single trick in my book. He's got all these maneuvers. I literally used every single dice I had on that, but that was badass.
Dude, I thought for sure that GM was going to pull, that's not really the dragon. Here's the dragon.
No shit.
Yeah.
Fucking DM, man. Always trying to kill us.
And we'll make this the after action right now. We'll just keep going through this.
It ends with 4 skeletons that are just slowly crumbles to dust, and then the credits come over.
Well, it's ironic now that we are making this the after action report. We could talk about a lot of things too, in how none of these characters are the original characters. Yeah, they're all they all died or whatnot. In fact, I think Radke, you had asked me you wanted to see the AP after the fact because you wanted to see how Heinrich, what he was really like. I was like, well, he's not in the AP. I built him as a butler, and he was going to be just a butler until Stubby had done what he did with the Baroness, and then at that point it was oh, look at you. But I cut a lot off the back end of this thing because of time constraints, and we want to get the next PF2 AP ready, locked and loaded, and sent down range, which is going to be Bloodlord's Zombie Feast, which I'm looking forward to. But we had to bring this thing to a culmination. There was a cathedral that you guys go to after going to Tula's Crypt, and this thing had 30 rooms. I mean, this thing could have gone on for another
60.
Oh God, I hope not. Yep, there's Glossier. But yeah, I mean, I didn't want it to keep going and going and going, so we just I wanted to bring it to a culmination, and had we stuck with the original lineup, I still would have brought it to a close sooner. So
I gotta say it's hard because we're trying to make this interesting as well. So we all want to bring in some role play, and we all have backstories we want to explore. So it's you can really make a 5 thing, whatever the mayor's house or the magic guy's house that we started with, I started in. It's we probably could have done that in 4 sessions, but it was just more.
I don't know about 4 sessions. I think that because now that I see you have the AP, once you read it, it seems like it would go faster. But when you find Methesic locked in the cupboard, he had locked himself in the pantry, and you deal with him, and you deal with the sheer demon, and you deal with that other bumbling demon, that guy that was the one upstairs. Yeah, everybody, that's all the stuff that's going around, and then you deal with the guy that's up there at the telescope, the homunculus. It could tend to draw itself out, and I don't ever want to have anybody not bring their backstory into something. I think that's important. So, and that's, you want to invest in your characters, especially because when you get somebody that's bloodthirsty like myself kills them, I want to see the pain and torture in your eyes. So
Fucking Lodo.
yeah, Lodo.
Fuck that guy.
Lodo.
I was gonna say, man, it's interesting to me because this is Dungeons and Dragons, and like the way this has evolved now, like, you know, you're in somebody's house, but it's still a dungeon, and there's like traps and monsters. So it's cool to see how it's gone where, you know, it's just this old tomb. Now it's like, oh, you're in a bank, you're on a city street, you're on this, but you're still able to use the characters and put yourself into that environment. I think that's super cool of the game.
I think it was a good evolution though of the genre though, because I think that if we had kept this in like some underground cave and you just kept doing that, you know, whether you're fighting orcs or goblins or bandits, and then you come to the big monster, I think that would get old. It'd be very repetitive after a while. So I think that to add these, that's one thing I'll say about Paizo with their Pathfinder adventure paths is they've done a remarkable job with Galarian and all the places. I think they fleshed out a great deal of the world, and then put these APs, which are all somehow, well, they are all interconnected. So one AP leads into the next and then into the next. So they have this rippling effect from like the Rise of the Rune Lords through the Curse of the Crimson Tide or Curse of the Crimson Throne to the Star Shattered Shard or whatever it is. You know, there's all these different,
that shared history. Yeah.
yeah, they all lead into the culmination of when they finally finished up 1E. I'm sorry if I totally butchered that AP, but
They actually, you know, Hell's Vengeance. It's like the one where you're evil. There's like a Hell's Vengeance, and then there's another one. It's like Righteous Wrath.
Wrath of the Righteous. Yeah.
Yeah, and it dovetails, so you could be the good side or the bad side, and depending on what you're doing, it's affecting. But it still kind of comes out the same. But I think that's fucking cool too, man.
Yeah, they've done really well with it. I mean, it's probably no secret that I'm not a big fan of the WotC stuff as far as their adventure paths, because how many times are we going to still play the same AP of Against the Giants or the Tomb of Horrors? I mean, holy fuck, they've had like 6 iterations of this thing, and they keep, you know, the Sunless Citadel and all this other stuff. They keep going back and rehashing the same things. People want new stuff, and I'll give them this though. Their mechanics for 5e are incredible. They streamline fighting and combat like it's nobody's business. You're not spending hours and hours adding up dice and rolling dice and, you know, what can you do? Oh, I could do this. You know, one person's turn is like 10 minutes long, and they could take like 70 points of damage and like, okay, well, I'm still up at 240, you know, whatever. You know, I'm sure that's an embellishment on it, but to have people that are brought back down to a more manageable level with their hit points, I think is important. So
I want to ask Sam, how much 5e have you played?
5e, I think I played a little bit with you, Brian, with like a revamp of one of our old characters with Tyrannus and all that stuff, but
yeah,
not a lot. And what I was going to say is on the previous thing you guys were talking about, it's like actually when I play Dungeons and Dragons, I want to play the old stuff just because those were the ones that I grew up playing. I don't want to play new stuff that they make, but I do want to play new stuff that we make or that you make, Ryder, stuff like that. Like I'll take a homegrown campaign any day over the old, like, or the new books that are coming out. Like I just don't have an attachment to them. You know, Ravenloft, Tomb of Horrors, where it's like, hey, I just made my character. Oh, well, he just died. That's pretty much Tomb of Horrors in the old days. You know, you don't have to play to have to lose a character. But yeah, I like those old ones, but I really can't get vested in the newer stuff that's coming out. I just don't have an attachment to it. Like there's too much of it. If I'm going to play new, it's going to be stuff that we create, you know, as a group, or, you know, having the DM make a homegrown sort of campaign. Those are the fun ones to me because you don't know what to expect, you know?
yeah, we did that with Riders on the Storm. when we brought you in and for the finale of season 1 for
That's
those
right.
2 parts.
Tyrannus was in that.
Yeah, that was really fun. I think that kind of took people by shock because you were working with the free traders, and they had commissioned you and the heroes. So you guys were both kind of vying against each other, and you didn't know that, but you played that really well, just like you did Heinrich.
Yeah, they had how many episodes to do it, and here I am, all cut up with you. Dragon breath.
But I mean, we had quite a few, I guess, character deaths or whatnot. I think when Nick had bowed out, I just wrote his character out because I think you guys had just got out of Hunclay's Manor, and so I just made that as a good time where he just went off in his other direction. We brought Radke on board, and he settled right in. We had a really good time with that. And Flint was the next person on the chopping block, unfortunately, who died from the sheer demon. Yeah. So how'd you feel about that, Junior? Dying to a demon.
It sucks, but it gives you that pucker effect to let you know that, the consequences are real.
See, and I like that attitude because it's true. I know that with a lot of the 5e APs, I think that they're less lethal. Whereas I think that like Dragon's Demand, which is a standalone episode or standalone book, it's not part of a 6-book compilation or whatever. It has a lot that can really wipe you out, just like the 6-book ones do too. And I see how they gradually increase with their difficulty. You come on board, and first thing they want you to do is they want you to go and explore this collapsed tower, and of course you meet a few things in there, solve a few puzzles, and it's a little dangerous, but you're still first level and second level. Then you work your way up to the Kobold tribe and the quarry and stuff. And then I think they did really good with their milestones as far as leveling people up. But yeah, when you went against the sheer demon, I mean,
that was like our first big boss. So.
Yeah, he was definitely a mini boss. So
I always think about you licking the fucking thing and you were putting the poison on but like in the role play you did, I'm like, God damn, he's really getting into this. But you told me later, like, because he was putting poison from his mouth on the thing, and I was like,
licking the 3 prongs of the trident, which each had a propensity to attack. Like when he would roll 3 attacks, and 2 of them may miss. You only may get nailed with 1 prong, but if you get nailed with 3, and I think that's what ended up happening with Flint at the time. I had to listen to the archive, but yeah, he got downed and then got licked and sticked. That would have been a good title for that.
Hard, yep.
Lick 'em and stick 'em.
That's just a good Saturday night, my friend.
That's Heinrich's last name. Licked and sticked.
Same as the town that he is from.
Yeah.
Then we evolved not just through Hunclay's Manor and you guys going through and bringing Flint's body back, but then one of our characters, Stabi, had a problem with the Baroness, and she said she wasn't going to pay for Flint's funeral, and Stabi thought she should have, and that evolved into something that got blown out of proportion. And I think that's when we really started seeing Heinrich come to the front of, like, this guy isn't just the old stupid what's the name of the butler on Archer?
Woodhouse.
Woodhouse. That's originally how I envisioned him, was being that old decrepit man. Yeah, there you go.
Nice.
Very good, sir.
For the people at home, Chris just stood up and he's actually wearing an Archer shirt. That's
beautiful shirt too.
He's not wearing any pants though.
Yes, it's like a dickie.
We saw his Woodhouse.
But when the Baroness's son's name was Arnold, so I was like, well, he's got to have that kind of accent, and then so should she. And of course, she would only feel comfortable with having a Heinrich, who is also from the fatherland, working
and then his mother was also from France. That's why the accent slips in and out in the previous episode.
But I just really wanted him to be more than what he was once that came across. And then I think that led us up to one of my favorite episodes when we had the battle on 3 fronts, which poor Stabi didn't make that one. And somebody was kind enough to point out that I think that perhaps he might have survived that had Warren not stayed so far back and actually had come to help. But that's obviously that's in the past. We had a listener say that.
I like the idea of though of not just having fear of death in combat, but having fear and death of your actions. And that's what
true.
Stabby. I mean, obviously he died ultimately in combat, but it was the cause and effect of it is that he freaking called the Baroness out.
Yeah,
And
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I like the idea of if you're going to RP that character, it should be to that character's convictions and backstory. And yeah, you may lose a character out of it, but it's good for the role play. It's good for the adventure path to take it more than just slogging through, a dungeon. It's like intrigue. It's almost like a almost soap opera-ish.
A little political in there.
Yeah.
Think what a cool story it is for this group if ever they were to find out about Heinrich, that he was the one that did that.
Yeah.
Because they don't know. They weren't there. They didn't see him. So what kind of betrayal would that be after they fought with him with the dragon and
Just some
whatever their
Shakespearean
adventure will
shit.
be?
Yeah.
Whatever their adventure will be traveling to, and then after that, what if they find out? That's just
Well, it could
my
be a whole
God.
nother, it could
fun
be
story.
it could be a whole nother fork
All
of
right, Brian.
the story with,
Well, that's
with
why-
Heinrich.
I always ask you guys to hang on to your character sheets too, in case we want to bring them back. But Dempsey and Valadier were the only ones that were involved with the fight, and Father Hammerbane was with the rest of the town watching this whole thing unfold. But Heinrich wasn't built as a tank; he was just built to do damage. It would not have taken much to take him down.
he was a daisy or a tulip or a petal in the wind. I was so afraid he was going to get one claw, and it's just
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of AC. He could do damage, but that's really about it.
it's like the old D&D wizards at first level. They would have
Oh,
1
yeah.
to 4 hit points, and a
Oh,
cat
Lord.
scratch would do 1 to 4 hit points.
Yeah.
You die from a cat scratch, and not the cool Ted Nugent song "Cat Scratch Fever." Like,
Yeah.
nope, 1 hit point, I'm dead.
So when you think about that, I mean, 1-on-1, it would have been a good fight. 2 against Heinrich, there would have been no fight. All that required from Stebby was 1 of 2 things: either have an assistant or have some help there, or 2, actually hit him, because you kept missing.
Oh, my rolls were horrible.
That was the worst part. Was I think you did web twice out of the wand,
Yeah.
and his
They
dex
missed.
was enough to get him out. But other than that, and then when Stubby had ran out into the clearing and got blasted in the back, the writing was on the wall at that point. And then that led you guys to look for the rest of Hung Clay's hidden cave, where you eventually found his shit there and got pretty much lit up there. That was nice. And then you met Clossier, and then went to the auction, and then had the huge battle in the auction and everything. And at any time I kept wondering if somebody was going to die, and you guys kept going strong. And then you guys got to the realization that after a lot of the townsfolk had died, including Arnold and some other major players, that we were starting to get into the end of this AP, and that there were several weapons at Tula's crypt. And that's what you guys could either go to the crypt, or you could go to the garrison where the dragon was supposed to be waiting for you to bring the gold and whatnot. You guys chose to go to the crypt, which was, it doesn't necessarily say it in the AP, but that is the correct direction to go first, is to go to the crypt, because you really want those weapons, like that arrow that Heinrich had fired.
Oh, that was
At the
amazing.
Green
That sword
Yeah.
was badass, man.
Yeah, the sword's
Talking
in
about
there.
a 12 plus 12 to attack. I mean, I was using a lot of stuff, but these dice rolls weren't that good.
No, and that's the thing. It was meant for you guys to actually give yourselves a fighting chance to hit the dragon, because you're going to be taking a lot of damage.
Let's say at one point, Sam hit, he had like a 21. What was that thing's AC?
Well,
The AC
21
was
was a
20.
hit.
20.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the AC was 20. And this is the problem when you're converting something from Pathfinder over into 5e. You have to find the median that gives you almost the same thing in the Pathfinder, but yet doesn't overpower them like because a fifth level or sixth level character in Pathfinder is significantly more powerful than one in fifth edition, although not by far. So you got to strike the balance of, okay, well, how much can somebody really do damage and what's their AC? And you want to make sure that your villain isn't so powerful that it's just delivering all this damage to where the characters, the PCs can't withstand it or can't get out of their way. And that was when you guys went into Tula's Crypt, and we lost our last individual. When you guys were fighting against Arturic and his minions, his whites that were in there, that was still a doable fight. All you had to do was kill Arturic. The whites would have stood down. Unfortunately, when you try to undermine an AP by being part of the AP's backstory, so you could metagame it, that's where you run into problems, because eventually you're going to run into somebody who doesn't like the dead NPC that put them in a crypt. And so the
Yeah, the
metagaming
hatred
didn't
for
pay
the-
off at that point. What's that, brother?
Having the hatred for the bloodline.
Yeah, and that's what it was. There's a whole backstory that's in the AP that talks about Tula and Arturic's relationship and what happened and with their kids. Now, I modified it slightly because I always like my NPCs. Yeah. I always like them to kind of have a bit of a alternative streak where they're not so altruistic that they're so good that you think that they're great. I always want them to be a little bit bad in the sense that how they got there, they might have had to step on a few people, but you don't see that because now they're standing head and shoulders above everybody else. I think everybody that's in a political position like that has
Shit.
that.
Look at any CEO of any company. They're
Well-
not the nicest people. You know what I mean?
Well,
They've
that's what
got
I'm
some
saying. I
growths,
wanted
for
that
sure.
too. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
she wasn't bad, but she did go insane and she caused a lot of problems along the line. And so Arturic just wasn't going to have it if he ever got a chance to deal with the Belhaim, and he died first. So he didn't get that opportunity. Well, look at who's in his house now. So,
Yeah. I also read somewhere that, Arturic was sleeping with Tula's sister. So, I mean, that added a little extra fire to the flame.
he locked them up, man. Tula liked it though. She was good with it.
We were just talking about challenging the players, and again, the kids game I run, I throw everything but the kitchen sink at these kids, and it takes a lot in 5e to kill people.
It does. It's hard.
Just have Ryder GM them. They'll be dead in a minute.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I don't like to beat it to death, but it's like I was accused of being this malicious DM who thrives in the death of player characters. And that's not true at all. I just don't want you guys to feel like, well, that wasn't a big deal. That was a walk in the park, that battle. We just basically spent 2 hours just together because we didn't even need to roll dice. That's not what this is about. I mean, you guys got to feel good that you killed that fucking green dragon. I mean, holy shit. And you got to feel bad that you didn't kill Arturic. There's got to be stakes there. You got to enjoy that shit.
I don't know. The dragon didn't seem that tough to me. I shot him with one arrow and fucking basically he gave up, no big deal.
Yeah, he gave up. He turned tail and went invisible.
That was a fun fight, man. I just wish I could see the
Yeah.
cinematic, It's like I always see these things as we're playing it. It's like a cartoon. Because that whole thing would have been, it was what, 4 rounds? That would have been like 24 seconds. Boom, 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 boom.
Was it? No, I thought it was maybe a few
5,
more,
6
maybe
rounds?
4 rounds tonight, but there was rounds last episode
4.
too.
Those maybe. So even if it was 10, that's like a minute. So in real life, man, that would have just been like a freaking Jackie Chan movie. Something's flying in, something throwing, you got a ladder and somebody's spinning around. And like these fights, when you break them down, it takes us 4 hours to do it, but it's over like that.
Yeah, and you got to imagine we'll spend time with your turn, or Junior's turn, Sammy's turn, Chris's turn, but every turn is, every round is 6 seconds, including the bad guys are going. So all this stuff is like moving synchronous. Help me, Sammy. Synchronicity.
Synchronized.
Synchronized. Synchronized swimming.
Synchronized.
Gonna keep Sammy on board just to keep me straight.
Synchrozactly.
Because I ain't straight.
I want to keep this going. I really have to pee. So can I just come right back? I'm sorry.
Just
Sure,
get a
go ahead.
bottle, dude.
I know. I'm going to pull a Dumb and Dumber.
Gatorade bottle.
Oh my God, he's actually grabbing a bottle right now, listeners.
Killing those headphones.
He's just
Yeah.
muting it though.
I
see a
really
little
enjoyed
acorn.
the tactics that was observed on the battlefield. That was kind of cool how, as soon as the dragon started using breath weapons, we just kind of like, oh, let's not bunch up for this thing.
Yeah, in fact, when you guys had first come out of the crypt and met with Heinrich and everything, and everybody was bunched up the way you guys were, you guys even separated a little because where he went in the initiative order, he was last. So I let you guys make all your moves and stuff, but you guys still stayed on a line. And I was like, okay, well, this breath weapon is going to hit everybody. Everybody make a save. Instead of if you guys had moved out of the way, because it comes out at a cone, so you really would have had but it still had so much distance where it was going to hit everybody. So when you guys got off the line, when he came around after doing that breath again, there was no way he was going to hit you guys. He would hit maybe 2 max, which was coming at the very last.
Yeah, I would echo what Junior said about the battlefield tactics, because I remember during the after action we did with Battle on Three Fronts, I made a comment that Stabby was off on his own and nobody knew where he was. That the rest of the party, there was like little battlefield tactics that nobody had any situational awareness of where anybody was on the battlefield. But in this last fight, to your point, Junior, is like everybody seemed to know kind of where everybody was. And we were getting to that point where we were kind of fanning out. But I mean, that fight happened so fast with that dragon.
Yeah.
It's like
Especially with the weapon changes and
Yep.
everything else. It was just great.
That was
tactics
pretty
for everyone.
cinematic. I mean, you saw Dempsey running over, grabbing the arrow, giving it to Heinrich, and then you see Valadier dropping the sword and moving back and pulling out this thing, and then Dempsey's securing the sword and Heinrich's firing the arrow, and just all these things are that's happening really fast. You guys actually had better tactics in this fight than I think in any of the other fights. I mean, it's probably no question that I have huge disdain for why one of the most powerful PCs stayed like 300 feet away from that Drosk fight while everyone else was up front. I never understood that, especially when Stavi goes off in the forest by himself, and it just, none of that made sense to me. I think that focus fire, in my opinion, is one of the best tactics, which means that more than one person has to be dropping somebody. I mean, I gotta understand staying true to your honor and dealing with Drosk one-on-one, but there should have been multiple people on his 2 buddies with the war ape. That should have been the case.
Well, I think when Heinrich joined, his natural leadership, charisma, and just all around, good looks, naturally had everybody just kind of fall in line and said, oh, let's do what Heine does.
It was the German accent, really.
You mean
just
the
subconsciously
German,
brought it up.
French, Russian I drifted into.
A little bit of Cajun in there.
Dude, I'd be, yeah.
Little Creole.
Yeah.
A little Creole.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'd be talking, I'm trying to, all right, we get to German. And then Junior would, yeah, so now we do this. And then now Heinrich is talking like this. And then
Dempsey has
talking
to
like
say-
this. Yeah.
Oh my God. Chris is just watching us like we're all morons.
Yeah, but he stayed in character the whole time.
And I love that.
Tommy will do, it's like right on. I know who's talking if I'm listening.
And that's good. That's always one of the things that I never force anybody to get into character or to say, I will do this, or rather than say that, okay, well, Heinrich is going to go, I always prefer that because I think it really bleeds in deep to the immersion effect that we try to have when we have people try to listen to the show. I think that's cool. That's important.
I
Because
have a
bring it,
habit
that's
of
good.
staying in it a little too long when I'm asking like DM questions and stuff. So how do we do this here, Brian? Come on, man. Here you are. Tell me.
See, don't break
Say
character.
it
I
to
love
the
it.
language I understand.
But that's hard as a player, though, is separating the RP of the game and stepping away and asking like technical questions
Yeah.
and moving in and out of that voice. I mean, that takes a skill all out of it itself.
And if you're describing things too, like at the very end, I wanted to describe what everyone saw of Heinrich. I didn't want to do it in his voice, like he's describing it to the listeners. It's like,
He's just monologuing.
yeah.
He's just walking out. And now I will go through the door and I will open it. You watch.
The bad part is the Baroness still owed me money.
Yeah, right.
Will I be getting my check soon?
I bet that bank would be super easy to rob now if we wanted to.
All the melted gold in one big pile.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just
Chip it up.
chisel off a few pieces.
It's like, well, guys, what
one
about all that
coin.
Electrum pieces? Nah, we don't want those. No one uses those.
Too heavy.
So even though Dragon's Man went probably longer than I wanted it to go, I think that we did a fairly decent job of wrapping it up, keeping characters alive, and still having a good time playing it. Glad Sammy was able to join us.
Yeah,
the
thanks
last
for letting
few
me jump
episodes.
in at the end, dude. I appreciate it. Thanks,
Well,
Hard
no, I got
Slingers.
to get your chops back on you, man, because you're jumping in as on our new AP Bloodlords. What's your character's name?
Khan the monk.
Yes. And
So
we
when
can't
everyone
wait.
does well, they go Khan. And when I screw up, they go Khan. And then when I fail, I go, God damn it. Thanks, Junior.
You're welcome, bud.
Vimo his fucking payment for that right now.
check your PayPal, man. I said it earlier today.
just got a text.
Confirmation
No,
of
it's just a
funds have
text
been put in
message.
your account for laughing at stupid joke.
And he's looking at it. He's like, how am I going to pull out one gold doubloon?
Is it like a Bitcoin?
Well, we're definitely going to be implementing the gold doubloons in Bloodlords, so I look forward to that as well. Anybody else have anything else they want to add about the AP before we call it and pull the plug on tonight?
Thank you for all the listeners listening.
Yeah,
Hope
thank
it
you
was
for
fun.
spending time with us.
Thank you, GM, for running us
Yeah.
through 62 episodes of crazy 63 craziness.
63.
Sorry, I couldn't keep track. Tears, jeers, good times, bad times.
Well, ironically, this after action report will be episode 64, and there are 64 pages in this adventure path. So that's
Sure, you don't want to do
Nailed
five
Page a week.
more, get to the magic number?
69.
We'll do a little epilogue.
I personally want to thank all of you listeners out there for enjoying this show. My fellow slingers, thank you for this wonderful journey that you've managed to stick with to the end. And hopefully you're listening to this episode because it means you listened to it to the end and that we didn't just drone on to the point where we bored the living shit at you or made you yell into your own headset that these fucking morons don't know what they're doing with the rules and the mechanics and what is this role play and who's this Stabby? Why would he hold the knife to the Baroness? And why is Heinrich with a German accent now talking like blah, 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 do not say blah, 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 and all these other wonderful things. But I want to thank you all for listening and stay tuned for Bloodlords Zombie Feast because we look forward to running that next. We have ourselves our Hard Slinger panel right here, and that's what we're going with.
Hell,
All right,
we'll see you soon.
we will.